I want to find out who their favourite football player was when they were younger and things like that. Kind of ready to go. 2 minutes, right? But you'll notice my first and my last questions are always the same.
I've noticed that.
And then we'll go for about an hour, and then we'll get Jake on, and then the last question is actually for both of you as well.
Okay.
If you're ready to go, Graeme.
I'm good.
Yeah,
good to go.
Perfect, mate. Okay, I'm going to put these down here just now. And I'm going to put them just like that.
The Aberdeen Club Shop just started selling that this week.
Is that right?
This week, aye. They obviously haven't read it because there's a bit of digs at Aberdeen, but oh well.
Good a place as any to start with a podcast, I suppose. We're on to episode 34. I've got to actually say Happy New Year, even though it's before Happy New Year. But Happy New Year to everyone who's listening, because this is actually going out in January, even though it's recorded in December. We've got Graeme Giles in. It's my second author. I've been having a bit of a dive into Graeme website, books. I've flew through your first book. I've not actually done your second one yet. We've got Jake here, your son, as well. First and foremost, how are you? I know you're a busy man. You work offshore and things like that, but getting to a lot of football since you've been home?
Aye, it's the third game. They've all been Highland League. We're at Banks of Dee last Friday.
Okay.
Against Keith. That was 5-0 Banks of Dee.
Good team just now, aren't they?
They are a good team. They're clinical. Like, you can't, see when you watch Keith, every goal was avoidable, and maybe another team wouldn't have scored the 5, but Banks of Dee will score the 5. If you give them that 5 chances, they'll score them, so.
Absolutely.
And then went to Turriff for Martin the day after. That was 2-2. That was a good second half. That game was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then today, the Kynick Park curse hit again. That's the second time in 2 seasons we've been there.
Aye.
And it's been a matter of like an hour before kick-off and it's been called off. Mm-hmm. So we had to rush for there. We ended up in Lossy. Obviously, because we were coming here, it was like, we kind of like Turriff as well. So we nip up and watch Lossy Turriff.
And he says it was... Yeah. Well, what was your words to describe Loss earlier on? I actually quite liked it.
They weren't as bad as I thought. Like, they were better than they were. They were actually better than I expected them to be. I thought it was going to be 3 or 4-0. I thought, but
yeah, Steve, was a manager at Loss. He listens to the podcast, so I think they're an improved side. And it's there's a couple of older heads in that Lossy team, but like Stuart Knight and that. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of young loons, and I think Lossy had the same thing a few years ago. But as you're saying, Turriff, they've always had strong teams, Turriff, and it's good to see. Do you think the Highland League, I'm not talking 30 years ago, because it's not as strong as it was 30 years ago, everyone knows that, but do you think in the last 2 or 3 seasons it's as good as it was 10 years ago, Graeme?
Probably not.
Aye.
I would say, like, I've been right back into it pretty much a decade now, as we'll go into. And you had some strong teams there because you had Cove in it, you had Barora were rocking back then. You had even like for Martin, they came second one year, but they scored the most goals in a season ever.
Aye. Exactly.
And you had some really good teams, but see now it's all the bees at the top. Bucky Broch, maybe not quite this season, but Bucky Broch, Brechin, Banks of Dee, Barora, and that's like a league in its own.
Aye.
And then there's not, there's kind of like a middle league, and then there's more so this season. There's a bottom league as well because
Rothus.
That's Strathay got another point today as well. So so they are picking up points, and so you could have Strathay, Lossy, even Keith. Okay, they've grabbed a couple of points recently, but they could still be pulled into it if another team wins a couple of. So it's like more than one league within a league just now. But back then, like, it was shared about quite a lot as well back then.
It is, So there was never apart from like the Huntly in the 90s, and even like going in, it was always, it'd be Keith one year, it'd be Huntly the next year, it would be a couple of wins for Devonvale, and it was, you'd go through phases of teams winning, but like people are watching us now. We were speaking about it just before we came on Italy. You go through phases of yeah, you get a little bit of Milan dominance for a while. They don't go back to Juve.
Inter do it, and then
Napoli will throw a title in there now and again. You've got a strong Atalanta challenge just now. It's good. I'm a Celtic fan, so I've been. It's exactly
not what you're used to.
Yeah, I'm not used to it, so it's a bit of excitement for me where I like 4 or 5 different teams. England, you've got your strong 2, you've got your Man City and your Liverpool, and Arsenal kind of pull away at times, but that's not a product for me that's interesting, because it's always the same competitors every single year. Italy's a bit different. You've got challenges now and again. We're speaking about Bologna. They'll throw in. You've just had Lewis Ferguson Player of the Year,
midfielder of the year. That's some achievement in Italy.
And then they've just taken on McTominay and Billy Gilmore as well. So
McTominay's taken to it like a duck to water as well.
So it's good to see.
But the Highland League, like you're saying, going back to it being shared about, it still is now, because we've had 3 winners in the last 3 years.
Aye.
But like, even when Cove were very good, they never won it more than twice in a row.
No, exactly. I always thought the Cove, that pitch helped them.
The tiny wee bit. I still enjoy going there. Like, it was decent.
Just a box, wasn't it?
But you compare it to now, I hate their new place. Been there heaps, like for kind of amateur cup finals and stuff. But I'm not a fan of it. It's just a big dust bowl in the middle of nowhere. So,
how good a football player you as a kid, Graeme? I'm saying probably like school age.
I played for the districts. Like throughout the academy, I played for the districts. So, and I was stopped from playing for the school because I had a bit of a tussle. I think it was up at Fraserburgh. And you weren't allowed to play for the districts if you didn't play for your school. But for some reason, I was still allowed to play for the districts. So I always think, I must have been doing something all right.
Absolutely.
And the manager was Neil Simpson. So
I've had a good few matches on Neil.
Very, very good guy. And like, he used to get people in as well to, like some of his pals. So you get ex-Aberdeen players in, kind of doing your training and that when you. So it was good. And what's his name? Alec Mayer. He's one of the coaches at Ibrox.
Okay.
Big old man with a big hair and a beard.
Right.
He was his assistant. So I'm sure, was it Banff Academy he worked at, or Turf? He was at an academy anyway. I'm sure it was Banff or Turf. No, in fact it was Mintlaw. He was his number 2. But he used to get like Chick McClelland in and stuff like that to do the training as well. So it was good.
I always used to get strong teams for Aberdeenshire. I remember going through and I played for an Elgin team, my school and that, and going through and getting Scottish Cup ties against Banff teams, and it was always ridiculously hard. The boys were always a foot taller than you.
Well, we were lucky at that age, because at the Shire, basically it was made up by the Colney Park team, and my juveniles, Colney Park were the best team. Maybe Middlefield, they were up there as well, but Colney Park were excellent. So a lot of the players play. So we hated each other in the boys' club, but coming together to take on the Toonsers was magic.
That's
we used to
love
that.
Position?
Centre half.
Yeah. Always been?
Always from day one.
Yeah.
I loved it. But that was back in the days where it wasn't about what you could do. It was like, he's tall, he's a centre half, and I was a centre half from day one. Just because I was tall.
No, that's the way it works,
But I would never get away with now. Like, my way of playing was Hideba. That's what I was like. I did some silly things you would never get away with now.
I think football's missing it. I look at professional football players, and not many of them can properly head a football these days. Like, and the things that they're heading they're cushions compared to the footballs of the 80s and the 90s. I remember I was a goalkeeper. I remember taking one at the face, and you'd be all right. I remember taking one at the face as I think primary 6, primary 7, and I'm pretty sure I was knocked out. Like, take one of them at the face now, and it's like, all right, okay, it's just a wee tap. Like, but I think with the kind of going back to the Highland League again and things like that, how it's changed is it's more an athlete's game these days.
It's the physical element. Like, I'm not saying I could have played in the Highland League back then, but it would have suited me more than football nowadays, because I like getting stuck in. I like doing silly things, and that's pretty much what I was known for doing. But I would never get away with playing the way I played back then.
I'm the same. I mind playing in a ref game about 4 or 5 years ago and just put my hands on the boy's back and it was like, that's a free kick. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get body position here. Madness.
It's football's very, very sanitised now.
It's a bit soft. It's a bit soft.
I suppose I could get into, that's why I kind of do like watching the non-league now over the upper echelons, because it still exists.
It does. It's very real. It's very real. Who's your football idol growing up? Can I have a wee guess for like your books? Your book that I've read. There's a couple of names that keep popping up.
Okay, go on then.
Ian Jess.
I think anyone at my age, loved him as an Aberdeen fan. But I wouldn't say he was an idol, but yeah, he was magic. I loved him. It was ace having him in your team.
The one that sticks out is Willie Miller, though.
Willie Miller was just I was actually after him, but spend hours and hours, watching old videos and just going, that guy, just a different planet. That guy, just an absolute different planet.
I was the same with Paul McStay. He was just a wee bit before my. I was around when Paul McStay was playing for Celtic, but I wasn't into football at 4 years old, so. But I'd watch old videos, Paul McStay and Brian McClare and all these players playing, and just loved them because of it.
Well, Willie retired this summer before I started going to Pittodrie. I went to the first home game of the season after he retired.
Is that your football idol, or
my football idol?
When you were a wee lad,
Jim Bett. If an Aberdeen player.
We've had that before.
Jim Bett,
just had him before.
He was something ace. Like you always noticed, like even when you're young, you notice when a player touches the ball all the time, and everything was going to him, so he could, he would start everything basically. It's like get the ball to Jazzer, and he would.
He got a few caps for Scotland as well, Jim, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was
great player, fantastic player. And he could probably fit in this Aberdeen team now. His style of play hasn't aged.
Yeah.
It's it's still relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could easily play in that team now.
I'll just kind of touch on that briefly. What are you making an Aberdeen team just now?
Well,
because you're flying a wee bit.
Not now, they're awful, and that's
the last couple of games, but initially compared to where you have been the last couple of seasons, the style of football and that, I think it's really good.
Yes, I agree with that, but we've set our standard high. And we're almost at 2 months with one win in a 2-month calendar month. We're only like 10 days off it. So it shows you that we've fallen right off a cliff now.
Yeah.
And I said, I was actually on another podcast, I can't wait to see how they react to a bit of adversity. Pumped at Hampden, and they've not recovered from it. They've won once since then. And that's since that game will be the 2 calendar months.
Was it? He's got a draw against us just before that, didn't he?
Exactly. And we've gone from going 2-0 down at Parkhead to getting absolutely destroyed by Hibs at Pittodrie.
Yeah.
So, and going by, well, obviously I was at Lossy a day, but going by group chat, my brother and a couple of mates, sounds like they were the proverbial dog dirt, like. Yeah. So
it's
a funny one. They've just totally dropped off a cliff.
Aye. Maybe at Christmas, hoping maybe a couple of signings to kind of boost it up in January.
Exactly.
He seems to know what he's doing with his signings, though, because the players he brought in the summer...
They are good, like really he is. But he's still got a lot of what we had before.
Yeah.
And he's made one thing I'll give him, he's made a couple of players very good.
Yeah.
That you thought were finished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shaden Morris, for example, being the main one. He's just like a different player.
The Pappy guy, I think,
he was another one.
Unbelievable.
We've missed him,
and I think the fact that you were still playing well when he was out injured, I think, was just kind of spurring it on. But I think you were almost riding the wave at that point.
Yeah, I said in that group chat today, saying we were the best in a poor league. We were the least poor in a poor league for a while.
Aye.
That's what we were, and now we've.
It's a great way to look at it, and it's very true. Yeah. It's very true. Unbelievable.
So, be interesting. What's the next games? We've got Dundee United and we've got Ross County before the end of the year.
Is that in Dingwall?
No, it's at home.
It's at home.
Dundee United's away. County's at home.
Ross County away isn't it? It's not the easiest of games.
They're awful on the road, so here's hoping.
First World Cup memories. What's your first World Cup memory, Graeme?
I remember Italy 90 being on in the house. But I was only, what would I have been then? 5, almost 6.
Yeah.
So I remember it being on in the house, but in terms of sitting down and physically watching games and going, Bulgaria's on against Germany, USA 94.
Yep.
Like
brilliant.
Properly watching it, USA 94.
Really good World Cup.
There were some excellent moments in that. Like, I don't think I think, like, see, people herald Italy 90 as being brilliant, but see, when you look back at it, it's very boring.
I think...
and USA 94 doesn't get the credit 90 gets, although it was a better World Cup than Italy 90.
I agree. I think I'm going to probably be unpopular with my opinion here, but Italia 90 is a very English biased decision because they had a very successful Italia 90. Whereas I feel the change of football came at 94. It was almost like this is when boys were starting to get paid big money for football. You had your stars, you had Baggio, you had Romario, you had Stoichkov, you had all these... try to remember the other one. There was Stoichkov, there was 2 Eastern European players that were...
Hagi,
sorry, that was the other one. That was kind of it wasn't the birth of these players because they'd been around for a while,
but they were more in because TV was more readily available then. They were more in the limelight and you knew more about them.
Absolutely. And America tried to do everything bigger, and to be fair to them, their football kicked on after that, you know, to the state that American football's at just now, which is it's a vastly superior league to anything we've got over in Scotland, you know.
You reckon?
I think so, yeah.
Mate.
I think so.
I don't think so. I think because they've got their stars, but they're kind of washed up stars, and then they've got a lot of guys just rammed in the team as well. You know, it's it could be better. Let's say
it could be better. They've still got their draft system, which I really don't understand. I've tried to understand it, but I just don't. You're right. But with the Americans, I think their product's much better. Like, I'm not keen on their commercial breaks and all this stuff, but I just think that we go to football, you go in 10 minutes before kick-off, you leave 5 minutes after kick-off, and that's it done. I had episode 4, I had one of my mates on, Belder. He's a season ticket holder at Celtic. He also follows Ange around the country, so he's been at a lot of Spurs games and things like that. And he says they just do it differently down there. He says, do it like the Americans. It's a spectacle.
Yeah.
He says there's things open for 3 hours before the game and 3 hours after the game, and it's all part of the fan experience. And to me, if I'm paying to go and watch Spurs at £80-90 a ticket, I'll go for that. I won't go and pay £90 a ticket to go and sit for 90 minutes and then just leave. I'm not saying that it's going to be brought up in here, but in terms of, I do watch a bit of the MLS. I think some of their teams would beat our teams. Like if you put a strong Celtic team in against probably their strongest team, which is probably Atlanta, I think we'd get a doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
And it just made me think of something in my head there as well. It's like people were deriding Hearts' result this week. Like talking about Scottish clubs being a bit rubbish, really.
Yeah.
And they're saying it's the worst result in European. Some people are actually saying it's not. Like Connah's Quay, want a word, you know. There's been worse, right? Definitely been worse. Aberdeen's going to Riga was probably worse.
I think Rangers against
Progress. Aye, that's probably worse.
That's probably the worst result.
Yeah.
And then you had Celtic against Lincoln Redimps, even though they turned it around.
Aye, so like I wouldn't count that. They were talking about that today in Off the Ball, actually. You can get rid of that because they could right the wrong. Like Hearts couldn't right this wrong. But the thing is, Kilmarnock beat Hearts with 10 men last weekend. Kilmarnock wouldn't win the Moldovan League. No way. No way. And then they're talking about this Moldovan as if they're a pub team. No, I think they were
a proper team.
It's they've won a league, you know, like they broke a dynasty in that league as well to win it. So, and Kilmarnock wouldn't be winning that league. You know, Hearts wouldn't be winning that league.
I just don't think that people realise until you actually watch Scottish football in the flesh, and
it's dire.
Yeah, it's poor. It's poor. Yeah,
like even see when you watch that, although that cup final last weekend was ace to watch, you know, like as a neutral, a 3-3 is always going to be good. But that was not two good teams playing each other. Like Celtic weren't at their top. They weren't at their top level last weekend.
It was a poor Celtic.
And Rangers struggled to beat a poor Celtic performance.
Yeah.
And it was like, although it was good because you had the goals, you had the penalty it wasn't given, you had the penalty shootout, you know, you had everything you wanted. Mm-hmm. It wasn't two good teams going at each other.
No. I think like Celtic could walk that league with a reserve team just now, quite literally.
I've got a £50 bet on with a boy I work with. He's a Rangers fan. He's from Lanark, and I'm saying Celtic will break the points record this season.
I think so.
Aye.
Yeah.
So the last time was at 106. So that's four draws.
Yeah, four draws.
4 draws, the rest wins. I think they'll break that.
I genuinely think, and I was saying it something, I think we've got a better chance of 10 in a row this time than we did the first time.
I agree.
Sorry, the second. This is the third attempt at it.
Yeah.
But I think we've got a better chance of it this time. And I think, what's that, 4 in a row we've got now?
Yeah.
So, mental. Right, I'll move it on a wee bit, Graeme. Talk about falling out of love with bigger games and in love with littler games.
Yeah. Going to Pittodrie became a chore, and people will go, they'll have a go about this, and they do have a go, but it did. Like,
Did you go every week?
I was season ticket holder. And then I was away games, but when he was really young, I stopped away games because that was it, right? And then my folks says, look, if you want to go to Pittodrie, that'll be our time, to look after him when it works out a treat. So, Derek McInnes, I've never had a lot of time for him. And what happened at Pittodrie was, like, mediocrity acceptance was installed in the bricks. So coming third was enough. Qualifying for Europe was enough. Not qualifying for the group stages of Europe, nobody really cared because we were in Europe. And no one wanted to progress.
Yeah.
Like, it was, this is what you always hear, and you're hearing it this season as well. Look where we were. But that line never went away. McInnes was there for years and years and years, and it never went away. And it was, look where we used to be. Look. So it was just, we'll accept third. And it was. And my last game as a season ticket holder, we drew with Rangers 1-0 in the Scottish Cup. We went down to Ibrox and beat them, actually. But we drew 1-0. And I was walking up Merklin Road away for a pint with my brother. And Aberdeen fans were singing, "Oh, Derek McInnes," in that white stripesy type way. And I thought, we've just drawn a game. And you're singing the manager's name as if. So one, that's putting them on a pedestal, and two, that's accepting the aim of football is to win a game. Yeah. And I never went back with a season ticket after that. In that season, Celtic won the league at Pittodrie, and I went away after that game because I remember being away for a replay, and I looked at the fixtures. I was like, "What's my next fixture when I come back?" Celtic at home. I goes, "Let's check. Oh God, they can win the league." I booked the holiday to Germany, which is in that book. The first book. That's when I go to Oberhausen.
Yep.
I go, I'm not. There's my excuse for not going to that game. So I just booked a trip to Germany.
Yeah.
And went to watch. Well, I went to 20 Enschede the night before because it was on the border of Germany. And then nipped over to Rotfies Oberhausen the day after. And I didn't even know the score. And this German, I had an Aberdeen hat on. This German guy, because it was like shuttle buses, because the ground's like in an industrial estate miles away from Oberhausen city centre. So you got like free shuttles back. And this guy, he starts pulling me. I'm like, what? And he's broken English. He goes, and he was like doing the score with his hands. I'm thinking, what? And then he pointed. And that's how I found out what the Aberdeen score was. I didn't even look it up because I knew Celtic could stamp a mud hole on us. I didn't even bother.
Yeah.
And you're done then.
Yeah.
They still ruin my weekend. They've ruined my weekend this weekend, but it's just not
that's physically. What happens.
So I probably got to Pittodrie maybe 5 times a season. And that's it.
And do you still enjoy it when you do go as much as you used to?
Yeah, obviously you still get that
still
rush when they win.
Still singing and things like that?
No, I was never one for it. I just sat, where the section Y is and the south stand. That's where my season ticket. So I sat here for years.
Yeah.
And I still love it. They'll always be my team, they're all that, but that level of football, and we're going back to something you almost said there, you're just a customer, are you? You're in, out, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
99.999999%
of the folk there don't know who you are. And then see now that I'm going around the Highland League and that, like familiar faces. I don't go to the same team all the time. I just nip about. And even in the juniors, like, people come up to you and speak to you because they remember you for the last time. And it's totally different. And like, he's got his yellow ball with him all the time.
Yeah.
Have a kick about, quite everything. Right. It's, it's like a whole, we'll go and see stuff before the games, and it's like a whole day out.
Yeah.
On the doorstep. Going to Pittodrie was go to Pittodrie, leave, and that was it. So
it's experience. It's experience.
Exactly. And I just it reignited, if anything, because you'll see in that first book I mentioned that I used to watch for Martin a lot when they were juniors.
Can I just ask about that? So there was a wee bit of almost hate for Martin.
Oh, a lot of people have asked this before.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist now, but it was a long-standing grudge. And where it comes from is I used to play for Buckinghaven Hearts.
Okay.
And
I've heard of them.
Peterhead.
Yeah.
In the juniors. We were second tier, and they were top of the Premier at the Super League. It was called the Super League at the time. And we beat them in Peterhead 1-0 in the Cup. We were like maybe 4th, 5th, 6th. They were top, flying. And after the game in the social club, like Buckinghaven Hearts have got their own social club, quality, cheap pints, magic, full owl managed, it's just like a proper junior social club. And our manager Billy was speaking to Dave Cormie.
Yes, I've had plenty of mentions of Dave.
Well, he was the manager for Martin at the time, and I was up getting the drinks in, and Billy and Dave were standing at the bar, and Dave says, "Billy, it's the worst team I've ever seen you manage." And I thought, you've just been beat by us 1-0. Like, I'd be looking at my own team for that, because that was a proper shock at the time.
Yeah.
And I just held that grudge ever since. I was like, can't stick him. And even like when I did the Highland League first time round, to get North Lodge ticked off, Cove were homeless at the time, so they were using North Lodge in Harlaw Park predominantly for their ground because Allen Park had been flattened. So I went to a Cove game. So I didn't have to watch for Martin.
I do like it.
But I don't care now. And you know what I mean? The best player in the league that I've seen for a long time, he's playing for them. And, we've watched for Martin last season. We ended the season. I think we did 3 games in a row ending the season for the book. Watching for Martin. So, and I ken a lot of people because I'm from Ellen originally.
Yeah.
For Martin's in the Ellen postcode, it's like just on the doorstep. So I could say it was gone now, but that's where it came from.
Okay. Right. I'm going to throw this in nice and early tonight. If you're enjoying watching us, you can subscribe on Patreon for £5 a month. Video episodes exclusively on Patreon. Everyone else gets theirs audio. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook. I'm also looking for a sponsor. This is my goal for 2025 to get a sponsor for the podcast. So, Alex Lauriston, if you're listening.
Chris Foot's another one we can throw in there.
Who's that?
Chris Foot.
Chris Foot, if you're listening. Lots of people listen to this podcast. Somebody give me a shout out. It's not going to cost you as much. Right, let's get back.
Can I add something to what I was saying there about?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, how do you fall in love with the littler games? And I said reigniting it. My dad's this, like, let's call him the secretary / treasurer at Ellen Thistle Amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he's still doing it now. And I haven't played for, well, like I was saying, it's like 12 years since I stopped playing football. He's still there every Saturday. And seeing how much goes into running a team, and that's like amateurs where I suppose it would be a bit easier than, with the juniors because you've got to raise more money because you've got linos and stuff. And I always appreciated that. And, and like when I watched for Martin when they were juniors, the reason was because I had like a few mates for Ellen played for him, and there was a really bad winter one year. So I was going to watch the for Martin games with my own juveniles because they were a couple of years older than me, so I was still juveniles. My games were off, so I'd go and watch them, and that's how it came about. But you would see the fundraising that went into like for Martin, and they're selling their sweepers and how much was made of selling, and people take that for granted.
Yep.
And I was always fascinated by that and how like clubs were like family clubs, and and I loved it. But it kind of went away again once I was like back, stopped playing. I was back watching Aberdeen more often. But then when I came back to watching the Highland League again, the juniors again, I was like, I forgot about this and how how much goes into running these clubs, and it's not just about You know,
massive. I'm in the middle of running my own club just now. Bishop I've just started up, and it's been a labour of love, but by God, labour with a capital L. That has been the word, and you didn't realise how much people you need behind the scenes to just to get a game of football going.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this level, and like, you know, the efforts. Some of these guys are ancient as well, and some of these guys have been on the go like 40, 50 years at a club.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, Ellen Thistle, for example, the boy that founded them, still there now, 1968.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah. It's just, and these boys have never taken a penny in their life, Ken.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about it, and I love like the friendliness of it. There's rivalries, but it's not real rivalries, you know. You know, okay, maybe down south, you know, if you've got a Cumnor Cock and Lek, you know, that's a bit different, but that's a proper rivalry. But, you know, there's a bit of fun to it, and, you know, that's what I love about it. Like, and you get to know people, and that's where it comes from.
Aye.
Yeah, I feel connected to it. That's the best way to put it.
That's the exact word I was looking for. Them connection.
Yeah.
It's everything's raw. It's there for you.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. And I appreciate it more than I appreciate professional football.
Yeah,
and that is a genuine truth.
Brilliant. I'm interested to hear this one. Who's the best player you've seen in the flesh?
Easy. Remember Scotland played Argentina in a friendly in, was it 2008? Maradona was manager.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
Well, going back to
that was Maradona's first game, was it not?
As manager, was it? No, he played the first ever game for Argentina. It was against Scotland.
That's when I'm getting confused. Sorry,
that was in like 79 or something, was it?
Yeah.
78. But no, going back to my Serie A love, I always loved Javier Zanetti. Always thought he was a brilliant player. Right, even though I was a Parma boy back then, but still, he was ace, and he seemed to be always on the go. Yep. Just a great professional.
I think he played to about 38, 39.
Aye, well, how old would he have been in 2008? A fair age anyway. Aye. And you know, at Hampden, they've got scoreboards.
Yeah.
So I knew he'd be playing, and his name comes up. Well, here he is, there's Javier Zanetti. And I thought, he'll be a centre half now. He doesn't hate the legs.
Aye.
Right back. Up and down that line like you wouldn't believe it. Like mid-30s, woof, up and down. I was like, this is incredible. Just what a player. What a player. That's the best player I've seen. And it was so good to see him, because I had so much respect from watching him on the telly, and then to see him, you know, actually in the flesh and being magic, even though he was in his twilight. Just brilliant. Loved it. And I only went to that game because after an Ellen Thistle game, one of the players says, anyone managed to get tickets for that game? If you get my ticket, I'll drive. You don't pay petrol. So I says to my cousin, he was tartan army at the time, says, you going to the Argentina game? Oh, can I make it? I goes, go and get your tickets. I'll take them off you, pay you. And so I only went because, you know, free. I didn't have to drive or anything.
100%.
It turns out it was brilliant. So,
right. I'm going to leave question 6 for when we get Jake on. You all right, Jake? Yeah. Here's an interesting one, because I was interested when you messaged me back about this one. What's your most memorable football match of the first 200 stadiums? And
you've read about it.
I know.
Forfar West End v Tayport.
It's like a whole chapter.
A whole chapter. It was Easter Scotland. It was before, like, you know, the south of the east, like the Edinburgh teams and that pulled out in Fife and moved into their own, you know, like the Lowland Pyramid. Yeah. So it was like a consolation cup of all, when they were all still together. So like Tayport and Lochie United and all that were still with the Edinburgh teams, and, you know, and it was a consolation cup tie on a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night. And it was a really fine afternoon. I picked him up from school. It was like, you want to go to football tonight? Aye, where? Let's go to Forfar. Oh. So like told me that group chat I was talking about earlier. I was like, wait, that Forfar for a consolation? God, you're mad. 4-4 it was. And it had everything. It was 1-0 Tayport. And then it was 1-0. And it was 2-1 Tayport, 3-1 Tayport. And that was where, was it 5 minutes to go? It was 3-1 Tayport. And then it was 3-2, 3-3, 4-3 Tayport, and then 4-4 in the last minute. Yep. And it had the greatest save I've ever seen in person as well. And that was, I think it was after, it was either when they went up 2-1 or 3-1, Forfar West End shot from centre.
Aye.
And the keeper, he was kind of, like he went running towards the goal. I don't want to turn away from the mic too much. And the ball, like, it wasn't lobbed over him. It was just like a dart. Oof. Yeah. And he was on the edge of his box at the time, and he ran back to his box and he dived towards the goal, and he kind of, like, it was like an uppercut, but he was under the bar, but he managed to get it, like, up and over the bar,
yeah,
and then over the goal, and it went out the ground. Honestly, if you would have seen this in Sky Sports. I know it sounds like a cliche, but this would have been repeated on Sky Sports forever.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
It's as you say, and you're just kind of going back to, it's the rawness of these games, isn't it? It was
ace, and there was almost a fight as well. Because I think it was the second or third Tayport goal. The keeper got beat. The forfeit keeper got beat in his near post.
Yeah,
and there was a Tayport fan. He obviously shouted something at the keeper, but the keeper's dad was standing next to the boy. Oh, that's my loon, that. So they were having a set too, and like, they were kind of being held apart. And it went on, and I'm going, there's going to be a punch here.
Mm-hmm.
Gladly there wasn't, but it was just ended with the Tayport boy going, well, you better teach your loon the basics of being a keeper. Beat it his near post. Oocha. And that was it. I just killed it. I was like, whoa, what? Yeah. Oh. But 4-4, that was. And I was at a record Champions League scoring game ever, which was 8-4 Borussia Dortmund against Legia Warsaw.
Yep.
And folk will go, there's no way 4-4 was better than that, but that was like an exhibition. It turned a bit daft after a while.
Yep. It was just no defending going on.
Exactly. Like, and you were willing both teams to score every time they went forward because it just turned a bit farcical. And but this was
8-4. Yeah, there's 12 goals in it, but 4-4 is a bit different.
4-4, and it was a cup tie, and it was
And it's, like, no offense to Dortmund or anything like that, but these games you're right on the pitch, and you're going through every single emotion they're going through. Whereas when you're in a stadium, it's got 60,000. It's a wee bit different.
It's a bit different, But yeah, that was. And the thing was as well, during that game, it was getting like you're looking at your watch, and you've probably not been to 4 for West End, have you?
No,
it's quite tightly parked outside. So we were heading towards the gate, to get a quick getaway at 3-1.
Aye, okay.
And then, lucky. Well, we never leave a game early anyway, but we were starting, it was that time of game, we were nipping towards the gate. And it was 3-1.
These days, if anyone leaves a game early, you're mad, because there's always about 10 minutes of stoppage time on a game these days. Can I just ask quickly, going on to Borussia Dortmund, what was the yellow wall like?
Not very good, because in Europe it's not standing.
Okay.
But that day they had a protest, and it was just like a spray painted banner, and it was FUCK, the UEFA Mafia fans it was something to do with, the fans of the life. Yeah. It was to do with the amount that the folk were trying to charge for games. So it was just the most basic thing.
Yep.
But it's like, the yellow wall holds more in Pataudry when it's standing.
Yeah.
But it's seated, so you're not allowed to stand in Europe.
It's because I can imagine Legia fans were quite...
Well, they were up above us, right? Yeah. And, I was there myself. I was actually over with work at the time.
Yeah.
And I was on a course.
I just got to say, I love how much you have booked games around your work. It's the theme of your book. It's like you're working, but in your spare time, there's no spare time because you're at games.
Denmark's not mentioned in that. I just finished in I did 2 years in Denmark. I went to like 24 clubs in 2 years. Every Monday night I was getting gay. And this ranges from I saw Midtjylland beat Lazio 5-1. And I was in the 11th tier. Just in everything in between. There was only 2 tiers I never went to. I think it was fourth and fifth.
You've been indoor football and all sorts of stuff?
No.
Indoor football?
Oh, I have done indoor, but not really indoor as such.
Yeah.
Ajax, the roof was closed.
Yeah.
Vitesse Arnhem, the roof was closed.
Going on quickly on Holland, I don't know, I'm probably a way to butcher this. De Kuip, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
What's so special about it?
The atmosphere's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, see, before they've got like an anthem, and see when they're singing that before the teams come out, whoa, like proper shivers down your spine. It was amazing. Just the whole, and you walk in. There's some grounds you walk into, and you feel the history.
Yeah.
There's been how many? There's like 7 European finals being played at the Coip and a international final.
Aye.
You know, it's oozing history. And
it's all over the place.
Nothing looks like it. Nothing, you know, like see when you walk up to it, it's like a spaceship just sitting there. But it's really old.
Yeah.
But then, like, see when you see inside it and you've got the roof, and the roof looks like it's taller than, like, you know, the actual, like, seated part. It's just a strange kind of, but it's just, what a place. Just an excellent, excellent place.
Yeah, do you speak highly of it in the book?
Yeah,
Like,
I love it. I'd go back there. Like, it's a shame because they're going to move out of it eventually.
Are they? I didn't know that.
It's just going to be athletics in there.
Wow. Okay, let's speak a little bit about your books, because you actually give Moby a shout in it. He was one that pretty much kept telling you to write a book.
Aye, well, there was 2 guys. Like, Moby used to come in to work. Like, I only got 2 weeks of my 4 weeks with him. Mm-hmm. So he would come in and he'd be like, far were you this time? Kind of games we at. Because a lot of what I was watching was the Highland League, he would ask, about that. But then obviously the more exotic places, not that Rothes isn't exotic compared to Vienna or whatever, but he would ask, and he always says, you've got a book in you. He goes, see the amount of stuff you've told me, you've got a book in you. And there's another guy, I've met him a couple of times for games, and he's an Aberdeen fan. He bides in Kirkcaldy. He's felt Brora-ish way originally. So he's a Brora fan as well, from when Brora were rubbish.
Yep.
He was following Brora. And he was the same. He goes, you've got a book. I was like, oh, do I? And I actually originally planned on doing a Highland League book.
Yeah.
But when I was looking through all the stuff I'd noted down, and, you know, I had like a hard drive full of another book, and I thought, no, that's a better one. But as you will know from the first book, and it wasn't deliberate, the last day of the 3rd decade, and it wasn't until I wrote like a match report from a website online, I noticed the date, and I was like, that's almost 30 years to the day since I first went to a football match, Pittodrie, Dunfermline and Aberdeen. And I looked at the date, and it was the very last day of the 3rd decade, and I went, that's a book there. Mm-hmm. And it was a 200th ground, so like in that 30 years I'd been to 200 grounds. Yeah. It just so happened that date was the 200th ground.
Do you know how many games you've been to, Graeme?
No, don't have a clue.
No.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Because like I know how, like, obviously you're over 300 grounds now.
Yeah.
You're on your way to 400, and Jake himself's almost at 200, 193, I think you said.
Aye, 193.
So would you have a rough idea of?
Well,
because you used to do Aberdeen home and away, so that's 38 games a season.
It wouldn't be every away game, but it'd be a fair chunk of them, because I used to go with my cousin. So say for like 10 seasons of doing that. Mm-hmm. And then you've got a season ticket for, I don't know, maybe 20 plus. Then you've got to chuck in all the junior games, like watching my pals for years. Mm-hmm. So like, I would be going to more games than an average football fan, because I'm not following a team.
Yep.
Like, if you're just following Elgin City, say, since you're sitting there, and you're going to every single game, so that's like 40 games. It's 40 odd games if you're counting cup.
Yep.
I'm going to more than that, because I'm not following a team. I'm following, you know, or if I go to, for example, like I go to the Netherlands for a weekend, I could get 4 games in 3 days.
Yep.
Where an average football fan would get their 1 game that weekend. So I don't know, I'd say 50 games. Honestly, I couldn't work it. I couldn't know, because it's varied that much. And then there's been my playing days as well, where you obviously don't watch as much. And
exactly.
And it was only midweek.
But you're also playing different grounds and things like that.
I tend not to count that. Well, I don't count that.
It's mad.
But,
one of the ones I'm going to ask you about, out of all the thousands of grounds, just because I'm interested in it, it was 100 yards from my house growing up, was you've got Bishop Mill in there, down at the old Dean's Hall. Can you remember that game?
It was for Martin.
Was it?
Aye.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I had a good few beers that day, but I'm sure it was a friendly.
Yep.
Actually.
Yep.
I'm sure they played, because they played another one. I was going to go to that, but didn't end up going to it. I think it was Fochabers was the other one they were playing round about that time that summer. But it was a for Martin game.
Because just when I was reading,
it's just a park.
It's just it's a farmer's field now.
Is it?
Well, there's 2 goalposts there, but the ground resembles a farmer's field near a football pitch. Big car park there, and there's a lot of potential, but just I've recently reformed a Bishop Mill team. We're not anything like the old team. We're just a Bishop Mill team, and we're playing at the Gleaner. But you never know. There might be room for manoeuvre one day down there or something. Fingers crossed. Here's an interesting one. Best goal you've seen live? Sorry,
Duncan Shearer overhead kick against Dundee United. Absolute class. And see, the thing is as well, it's very hard to find. Yeah. Because there was a TV strike at the time.
Is that right?
Yeah, it does exist because I've seen it, and I could find it if I asked the right person.
I think Pelly spoke about it. Did Pelly speak about that in his book, Ryan? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
There's there's a book I've read that somebody spoke about that, and it's quite recently.
Probably mine.
That's probably where I'm getting my wires crossed. Then
it's definitely mentioned in there.
That's probably where
probably in the watching Aberdeen part it'll be. But what was that? It was like October 1993 against Dundee United, and the thing was, this is maybe where you'll know it's from my book. The other goal in that game was 1-2-0. Mixu Patelainen scored an absolute peach. No one talks about it because of Duncan Shearer's overhead kick.
I'm sorry.
He scored one like from an angle. He like chipped it to the back post from almost the byline. What a goal! And the other thing about that day was we had season tickets in the Merkland Road end at that point. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, my dad had swapped the tickets with his pal just for a change. So we were in the Dick Donald, and it happened at a Dick Donald. So we got prime viewing as well. It was perfect. Just everything was made that day.
I love that. Right, another I'm going to hear a wee guess at, Graeme.
Okay.
Favourite country from your travels? So I'm going to say Holland.
No. Okay, I've done more well, not now, like, because that's slightly dated. Like Denmark, I've done more places in Denmark, more cities than that now. Mm. But I'd go Switzerland.
Sorry,
But I've only like 4 games there, but it was like a tour I did there. And that was as important to me as the Highland League because it came at a time where I wanted to forget things, so I just nipped away for 6 days or something. No, it was 5 days. Yeah. But I knew it was going to be good because I flew Aberdeen, Amsterdam, Zurich, but I wasn't watching any games in Zurich. My first game was Aarau against Luzern in the cup.
Luzern, that's the one.
And the train must have been, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half. And I was it's the same, like Zurich's kind of the same as Schiphol. You just go downstairs and the train station's there when you can go anywhere in Switzerland. And I looked at the train time, I thought, I'll get a few beers just to get me on there. And I bought 4 beers and I didn't drink one because I was looking out the window. And as soon as you're out, like obviously the usual city, graffiti everywhere, a bit of industrialness, and then you're just into this amazing like postcard from then on. Yeah. And I was just looking, going, gee whiz. And it's like, the farms with no fences, with the proper black and white cows walking about, the red, like the barns you would see in like American, like on the prairie, the red with the white. But in behind, you've got the massive mountains with the snowy peaks. And I was like, wow. And I hardly touched the beers because I was just looking at what was around me. And I was like, this is going to be good.
Aye. There's football in amongst that setting as well.
The atmosphere was something different. Like it was the Luzern game. They had behind the whole goal, and I hadn't seen much flares at football because I was still relatively just Scotland at that point. Yeah, and I'd seen the Torino fans at Aberdeen chucking a flare. That was the first time I'd ever seen a flare, and the whole end just lit up. Yeah, I was like, wow. And then they had Poseidon like raised up in amongst it all, and like there was lightning forks. Like I don't know how they did it, but they managed to like have these lightning forks. Like, wow, this is ace. And the atmosphere was brilliant that day. And even the Aarau fans who looked half like the Ku Klux Klan. They were in rows of like red, white, red, but the white ones looked a bit suspect.
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
But anyway, they lit up as well. I was like, this is magic. And then from there, I went to Basel. I didn't actually like Basel as a place.
Okay.
And
got bad memories of them against Celtic in the Champions League.
Well, see that Aarau game, funnily enough, where I was standing at half time, the pundit, 'cause it was on TV because it was a cup, the pundit was Murat Yakin. and he was standing in front of me getting interviewed at half time. I was like, oh, it's Murat Yakin.
Yeah,
so
Murat and Hakan Yakin.
That's right, they were magic against Celtic. But so I went to Basel, and I don't know, but they're not German speaking there, they're French.
Okay.
And I don't want to jump to conclusions, but there was a lot more arrogance. Like nobody really took you on, and Arrow was magic. Everyone was speaking. It was brilliant. I was getting bought beers in Arrow and everything. It was cracking. Loved it. But then from there, well, going back to atmosphere, one of the best pyro displays I've ever seen. YouTube. Oh, what year would that be? What year did I go? 2000.
Does it grab grasshoppers?
No, but if you put in, it's Basel v FC Zurich.
Yeah.
Pyro display. I'll send you a link, right?
Yeah.
And I'll show you. It was something. They managed to, like, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, but with like gold piping between the red and blue, and then the fireworks was. I would stand there. What the hell? How do you choreograph that? Because you've obviously got to pull them all at the same time. Like, that's unbelievable.
That is a bit of a feat. Like,
and I was like, this is incredible. But then on the other side of the coin, that's good stuff. Zurich went up 1-0, and they went down 2-1 in the second half, and then their fans were just spoiling for a fight. So they're rioting up in the top corner, and it was pretty nasty. I'm thinking, gee whiz. But
you didn't expect that for the Swiss.
Like. And that was FC Zurich, and I got a taxi back to the hotel because I genuinely had forgotten how to get back. Like, I was at the ground, I thought, I can't even remember how I got here. There's a taxi. I'll just jump in a taxi. That makes it easier. Back to the hotel. So the taxi driver says to me, he goes, "Oh, FC Zurich, worst in Europe." I goes, "Really?" He goes, "Aye, honestly." So I was back in the hotel, just in the bar having a pint, and I was looking up like videos and stories, and I think he was onto something. Like, and then from there we went to Bern, and if you've never been to Bern, go to Bern.
Okay.
It's a lovely city. It's really medieval, and it's ace, just an ace city. So I did 2 days there, managed to get a concert, went to the game, hotels right next to the ground. Young Boys with Toon, which is a derby. Toon's like a suburb of Bern. And nothing much atmosphere there, tidy stadium, all that. And then I went to Luzerne against Grasshoppers on the last day.
Yeah.
And the Grasshopper fans, best away fans I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They were incredible.
I remember you saying that.
So, like, I don't have a bucket list of football teams per se, but I would love to go and see Grasshoppers at home, especially if it was a derby against Zurich, because they just half a stadium.
Aye.
Because they share a ground, so.
I love that, half a stadium.
Aye.
There's some teams in Scotland that could maybe learn a thing or two for that.
But the other thing about that game was the police basically cordoned off the city centre to keep the Grasshoppers fans out of the city, because they've obviously they're
known
like
for
their
that.
Zurich counterparts. They're known for a bit of naughtiness as well. But they were awesome fans.
Okay, we've got one more question, and then we're going to get Jake on.
Okay.
And we're going to do some questions with Jake, and then we're going to run through year 1 to 11.
Okay.
Collect scarves, Graeme?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
You also collect photos of yourself outside ground?
Because programmes are a die. There's a reason for that. Like pin badges, you can't do it every game.
Yep.
Programmes, maybe back in the day you could have done it. You can't now. So my programme is a photo outside every
Absolutely.
ground.
Yep.
Or with me on my own if I'm going myself, because that is the proof that it happened.
How many scarves do you reckon you've got?
Well, every single team outside of Scotland I've been to, so that's 100 and maybe 5 plus the whole Highland League, and then other teams have like gifted me. Like I've ended up with Pollock scarf and like a few others from here and there.
I've got a really random question, but how do you store them?
Well, I've got a room.
Have you?
I've got
Brilliant,
an
I love
office, and I'll take a photo when I go home and send it to you.
Okay.
So they're all up. They're all
do
up.
like that.
Apart from the last couple, like our trip to Sweden last month, but they're not up yet. But most of them are up.
You got a favourite?
Yes, Cliftonville.
Oh, right. So that'd be red, white, and
It's red, white, and
green and black.
Aye, it's red and white, and the it's not because of what it looks like. It's Cliftonville. I went to Clifton again. You'll know about this.
Yeah.
I went to Cliftonville because I thought Aberdeen would be out of Europe by the time I got back from offshore. I was correct. So I wasn't getting a away day with Aberdeen. So there was a Battle of Britain, Cliftonville v Barrytown, in the Europa qualifier. I think it was like the first round. I thought 30 odd quid flight or something. It was like £39 return flight to Belfast. I'm going to Belfast for a day. So I went across, and because it was so early, they hadn't got their stock in for the season. And I says, "Have you got any scarves?" "No, I don't have any. We're still waiting for everything. You'll notice the place is bare." And I was like, "That's it. It's came to an end."
Yeah.
I don't know how many I'd been to by that point, but I'd had a fair collection going. And I was like, "Oh, that's it. It's ended. My scarf collecting's ended." And I got outside, and there was a girl and her dad waiting. And she goes, "Here." And she handed me it. I goes, "Nah, I can't take your scarf because scarves are sentimental." She goes, "No, it's all right." She goes, "I heard you in the shop." And she was younger than me, like a lot. She was a teenager, I would say.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Nah, I can't do that." And the dad goes, "Just do it." He wasn't saying it, but he was like just looking at me, like winking, basically. "Just do it." And I says, "Look, I'll pay for it." "No, it's all right, it's all right." And I just slipped the dad a bit of money. There you go. But it was just the whole, she heard what I was saying, and thought, I can help him.
There's a sentimental value behind that.
Yeah, and I thought, that's excellent. So I don't think that'll ever be beaten. That's the best one.
I love that, mate. I love that. Right, we'll take a wee break and we'll get set up for Jake coming on. So we had a wee break there, but we've now got somebody going by your book, Graeme. Jake's massive in this whole journey of yours.
Aye, yeah.
You said you're on about 340 grounds.
Something like that, yeah. It's about that.
Jake, 193 grounds you mean to, mate.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So you're only, that's 150 apart. Yeah, I know it seems like a lot to like any of us, but going to the amount of footballing grounds you used to go to, you're catching up to your dad, My first question for you tonight is, Jake, who's your favourite football player?
Vinicius Jr.
Why do you like Vinicius Jr.?
Because he's got a lot of pace and skill on him, and he's got
He's
powerful
good.
shots.
Yeah, I do like him. Do you play FIFA?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good on FIFA as well. What's the favourite thing about going to football with your dad? I'm interested to hear your question here, and I'm going to reverse the question on you as well, Graeme, in a second.
The kickabout.
Just going for a kick about the side. Yeah. I go to Elgin City games. I'm a Elgin City season ticket holder and things like that, and there's a nice big grassy area, and I always love seeing kids just having a kickabout there, because I can guarantee the players on that pitch at your age done the same. They'd been the ones kicking about that pitch. Do you play football at school and things like that?
Yeah.
What position are you?
Goalkeeper.
I do. Okay.
Who's your team?
Blackburn.
Blackburn. That's an interesting one. Where did that come from?
I don't know.
He went to Dice to start with, because they were looking for a keeper, because their keeper was going to go to Aberdeen.
Yep.
But then didn't.
Yep.
So he was kind of left on a limb. And then one of the coaches there alerted Blackburn, and then that kind of came about that. So just over a year. Well, his first ever game was Bonfire Night last year.
Okay.
So, but he's
enjoys it.
But he's getting on like he's
good man. Good man. Would you say that you're a better football player than your dad?
We're both as good as each other.
Oh, look at that! I think you're a better keeper. And then once you learn how to hit the ball a bit harder, then
it comes naturally as you get older.
You'll overtake me in all levels.
Once your legs get a bit bigger, you can start hitting that ball a bit harder, and the kicking comes. Graeme, what's the favourite thing about going to football with Jake?
It just opened up a new world. Like that. The first book, it's obviously me, off the leash, beers here, beers there, but I've still seen the sights of where I'm going and that. But then, when you introduce your kid to going, like if this is his first game, he was the late end of 3, went to Colney Park Juniors.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Can you remember that game, or is there a game that you can remember as your first game?
I remember the Colney game.
Yeah. Is there any early games that you went to that stick out in your mind? Can you remember your first Aberdeen game?
No.
No.
Motherwell. It was
Motherwell.
a rare James Wilson goal.
James, they played for Man United.
He scored the winner, 1-0.
That's a name you don't hear every day. Like,
but once he started coming, the problem was I wouldn't take him Aberdeen away games because you know the difference between an away game and a home game.
Yep,
like
different crowd.
Exactly, and it's a bit too much for that age. And that's we're going to Highland League. Where if you see the photos of him, like he's got his photo albums where every single photo from it is like an old-fashioned photo album.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the start, there's Bucky, there's a few Highland Leagues and it's all juniors and that. And that's because I was taking him there as opposed to going to away games.
Yep.
And that's how it started. And then I don't want to go to the big games, i.e. I don't want to watch Aberdeen, and that's how it came about. And honestly, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. So to answer your question, but there you go, I wouldn't have changed going to football him for anything. That's because it's just it's a different world altogether than
Yeah.
I can't even think of the word for it. It's more special, I suppose. That's a way to put it.
It means more. And go back to this word again. It's a sentimental value to your own heart.
Exactly, and it's memories forever. And he's catching. You were talking about catching up in grounds and that. Like we're not ground hoppers. Like I don't like that term. I hate it. In fact, we're just watching football. And we're making days out of it.
Yeah.
So like the day's as much about 90 minutes as it is, going to the castle or the museum or beforehand.
Aye.
And it's like he's catching up because I'm not trying to do anything. I'll go to a new one here and there, but like we completed the Highland League for him. That's where that book came from. The whole idea was he's got a poster on his wall. It's like scratch off, like it's like a scratch card. It's the top 5 tiers of Scottish football. And not last summer, but the summer before, he says, "What league am I closest to completing?"
Yeah. And
I says, "Well, I guess probably Highland League." Counted that up, was a Highland League. He had 5 left to do. And he says, "Well, we'll go to that 5 and you can write another book." And I went, "It's not really a book. How about we do the 5 plus the 13 again? We'll get a scarf from every ground and then we'll write a book.
There's a book.
And we'll make every day a day out."
Here's a burning question for both of you. I'm just going to move that mic a wee bit closer. Yeah. Go. What's the best pie in the Highland League?
Easy.
Forest Mechanics.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Aye.
Forest Mechanics steak pies. Best pies in football.
Aye. I think they're McLean's.
I did find that out. I can't mind.
They're the big bakery in Forest.
I don't think it's the big bakery though.
Okay.
I think it's another bakery.
Right.
I had this discussion with someone before. It's not McLean's, I'm sure of it, but they are the gift from the gods of football.
I will have to sample. Slinger will probably be Matty that put me in touch with you. He's a regular at Mechanics, and I'll have to go and get a game to get a pie now. In the Highland League, what's because I know you have had some nice receptions when you go to clubs and things like that. What would you say is the nicest kind of? You can name a couple of clubs if you want. What's the nicest kind of welcomes you have had and things like that? Because it's a unique story what you are doing.
Keith last season was good, and because for Christmas present, my brother's very my brother did both those covers.
Brilliant.
He's very artistic, right?
Yep.
And
a cartoonist.
He is as well. Like he used to be one of the main cartoonists for the Aberdeen fanzine before it went kaput, and he's done a lot. He's got, well, it's funny because that's in the Aberdeen Club Shop now, the first book. And sitting next to it is another book that's just came out about the history of Pataudry, and the cover of that is him as well. So in the Aberdeen Club Shop, he's got 2 of his covers sitting on a shelf. He's got to be proud with that.
I like it. I do like it.
And so he asked one year, he says, "What's your favourite ground, non-league ground?"
Aye.
And I says, "Well, it's Kynech Park. I love it." It says. So he drew this picture.
Yep. He
drew a picture of that, but before that photo was taken, in that exact position. You're obviously not going to see this in a podcast, but on the back of the book, there's me and Jake at Kynech Park. So he drew this and he gave it to me as a Christmas present.
Yeah.
And we recreated it that day at Keith. But Keith had seen the drawing and they started using it on mugs, T-shirts, etc., etc. And for that, the sponsor, Jim Reed Car Sales, says, well, because we've made money out of it, we'd like to invite the three of you up. So they took us to corporate.
Wow.
And the game was called off about 40 minutes before kickoff, which is very familiar to today, which was called off 55 minutes before kickoff. The curse of Kynick again. But it was ace, right? So he's like the shirt sponsor. Mm-hmm. And we met a chairman, we met players and all that. But because there was no game, I don't know if you've ever heard of Charlie Simpson. He's like he's the vice chairman, but he's like club historian. Oh. He's been keeping scrapbooks like since he was 13-year-old and Keith.
Yeah.
And he must be about 80 now. And so he gave us a tour of the ground. And it's funny because the best chapter in the book, like to create, was the one that had no football.
Yeah.
But Keith's a good one. I also have a lot of time for today's visitors turf. That's a good one. It's a great ground, but the people there are just ace. Like I've got a lot of time for turf for that reason. Banks of D as well. A lot of people have a go at Banks of D because
they've come up from the juniors.
Exactly,
so making a push.
They're always friendly with us. But we watched them in the juniors quite a lot, like before they were even up. So we've been going for years.
Always for any club, see as far. I'm keen to see as far as they can go. If they can go, great. What's your favourite ground, Jake? What's your favourite ground you've been to out of all your 193? Is there anything that sticks out in your mind?
I think Banks of D.
You like Banks of D? Yeah. And as you kind of touched on before, you like littler games rather than big games. What about outside of Scotland? What's your favourite? Or what would be your favourite country, maybe?
Not really sure.
No. With with you on your travels, Graeme, how many countries do you know have you clocked up?
I think it's 21.
21.
I think 20 or 21.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really random one here, but with where you're based for your work, is there ever a chance of catching an African game?
I could potentially on the way there now, the way that I travel down.
Yeah.
Because I've got to stay the night before I go offshore on
Is that
Sunday.
something you're planning?
If it was in daylight, I would.
Okay.
Like I would never go to a night game.
Yeah.
For reasons that you could imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
If people like me are seen going about.
Absolutely, yeah.
They think money, they think. So
yeah.
I wouldn't be out in the darkness. But the daylight, I'd attempt it. Like
absolutely.
And Luanda's got heaps of FITBA teams.
Yeah.
It's like half top flights pretty much Luanda based. Mm-hmm. So
brilliant.
There would be a chance. The big stadium there as well, funnily enough, is the 11th of November stadium, and that's my birthday. it's written in the stars, is it?
Have you got any plans to go outside of Europe, apart from obviously what we just talked about?
I would love to, but it's never really crossed my mind. Like, I don't mind travelling, but, I jumped to Amsterdam and then a quick jump after that. That does me fine. Like, we went to Sweden 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like 6 hours after I left the house, we're in Gothenburg. Mm-hmm. So I like the ease of that. Like I wouldn't want to lose too many days travelling. Like if you were to go out with, you're going to lose a day each side, are you? So
yeah.
I wouldn't rule it out, but there's still many countries in Europe to.
Absolutely.
Well, it's funny because I was listening to Off the Ball on the way in today, and Bobby Madden was the guest, and he said that there was only 3 countries he never refereed in. I think it was Andorra, Kazakhstan, and another one of the little countries. I can't mind. But so 52 out of 55 is not bad. So if I've only been to 21, there's still a lot more to see in Europe.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, there is. Okay, we're going to go into 111 because it's my favourite part of the show. We'll read through it and then I've got a couple of names we're going to pick out because I know you've got a few players that are favourites of you both. We'll go through, as I say, I'll run through it and I'll run through position as well. David Day, Atara in goals. John Pickles, right back. Ryan Christie, centre back. Not the Ryan Christie plays for Scotland, it's old Fraserburgh captain.
Boomer.
Eric Watson, threw it back when I totally forgot about Eric Watson. I don't know why, because he's won, I think, 6 Highland League titles. Harry Milne, Andy McCaskill, Dave Gillespie, Andy Gregg, Scotty Barber, John McLeod, and Julian Wade. Just a quick one. Who would you be your manager?
Oh.
Who's the most eccentric or biggest character you've seen in the Highland League manager wise? Anyone stick out?
Eccentric. I don't know. That's something I've never thought about really, but no one really sticks out. I'm trying to think back in there. Like, you had some strange ones, like, remember, like, not that I would pick them, but like, remember Brora had some weird ones. They'd get some players in, like Stuart Kettlewell, and then they'd end up managing, and Richie Britton.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then they were managing. Gee whiz. But in terms of Cove and that, Brora, Bucky.
Pelly, your manager.
I would go him.
Aye.
But that goes before, like, my own, like, what the book's based on, you know. But yeah, Pelly would be a good one, definitely, because, but then Greg Carroll, he was a great manager, and like many people think very, very highly. But yeah, I would say Pelly, because I did watch back in the 90s when he was managing. So I would class him as being eligible in that.
Aye, absolutely.
Even though that's not part of the book. But yeah, like my early days of watching the Highland League, Pelly was kicking about.
First name, we're going to go back to him, Eric Watson. So he was Cove, he was captain.
Aye.
6 Highland League titles. It wasn't a 6 in a row or nothing like that. But I think he's got to be one of the most decorated players in Highland League history.
He's very, very decorated. But the reason I picked him, and I don't know if he'd listen to this, is, but you know, we were talking about the dark arts when you were talking about, like, and not getting away with stuff. You would have. Yep. There's a prime example.
Yep.
Like, he couldn't play now. I wouldn't think.
No, he wouldn't get away with it.
Nah, he was he was an animal. I'm sure you could speak to, well, I don't know if I can't mind if Moby mentioned him. He hated him playing against him because it was raking the studs down the back of the legs and that. So he's getting in on the dark arts alone, but you've also got to remember he won a lot.
Yep.
He won a lot as a player, so just always stuck out in my head as a bit of a headbanger, really.
that's a great word for it, Graeme. Great word. So our favourite player out both of you, Scott Barber, because you mentioned that in the book that you like Scott Barber, Fraserburgh, banging in the goals, absolutely banging in goals. Do you think that's the best goal scorer you've seen in the Highland League?
It's either him or Julian Wade, really.
Yeah, it's just as good a shout as any. Yeah. Absolutely. You've got him on the other side.
That strike force would score.
Well,
see, like the second season of the first time round the Highland League when I did it myself, John McLeod scored 46 for Bucky that year. Yep. So he had to go in. There's like no way he couldn't be in that team.
That was his first season at Bucky as well.
I think it was. Maybe first or second, maybe.
I'm sure he done that straight off going in there.
46 it was. He was immense.
Ryan Christie was another one.
He was just dominant. Like, you know, I actually played with him as a kid. My team then, the juveniles, actually had him and Scotty Fraser in it. Scotty Fraser was at Devon Vale Cove.
Yeah.
They were both in that team. They both went on to Highland League. Well, Scotty actually went to Blackburn. Blackburn Rovers from us.
Yeah.
No.
It's mental.
No, sorry. He went to Aberdeen. Stuart Cummins, he also played. He went to Blackburn. Aye. I just always, every time I watched Boomer, he was just, you know, if there was a ball in the air, bang, he won it.
Yeah.
He was also magic at scoring for corners, headers. Seem to see him score headers quite a lot at corners.
They seem to have got player. Like a different thing out of him now, because he was for years and years just a young quick boy, and he'd go and get the goals and win the games, and he can all sorts of finishes and that. But now he's a bit older, they seem to be building this young team around him, and
different person.
Scott Barber on a bit.
Oh, so you were talking about Ryan Christie.
Sorry. No, Ryan Christie.
We moved on to Ryan.
He's
retired. He's mod manager now.
He played for mod for a wee while before.
He's manager now.
Yeah. Aye. Sorry, I was
Scotty Barber. Scotty Barber.
Yeah.
Aye, sorry, we're still the striker. Sorry, that's my fault. Aye, Scott. He's another one. Like, it would be interesting to see how many times he's seen him score. It's another one that seems to score every time. We're watching. Like, because I was saying about Julian Wade as well. Every single game he's watched, Julian Wade, he's scored.
If you're listening, Julian.
And I've told him that, and since then we've seen him a couple of times, and he's scored since. And as I said off record before, I went to watch him against Dice in Aberdeenshire Shield on my own without Jake, and Julian didn't score. So it just shows you. It's like
a name I haven't heard for a few years, John Pickles, because he's back up in Orkney.
Is he?
He was Orkney before.
Because he travelled to play, didn't he? Aye.
So
he must have been there, 6, 7, 8 seasons?
I say it was at least 7. He was your 8 out of 10 every single week.
That's exactly it. Yeah,
just Mr. Dependable. Just nothing went past him either. He was, and I remember him playing left back, centre back, right back. I think he even played defensive midfield at one point. You could play him pretty much anywhere in that back line, and he was solid.
When you read at the end of the Highland League book, it's got pretty much in detail. The first time I went round, and you'll notice I watched Brora a lot, not deliberately, it's just the way it ended up. So obviously I saw John Pickles a lot, and that's why this is slightly Brora heavier. Well, I'm saying that, there's only 3, but I saw John a lot in that period, and I thought, he's a good player, him, solid. You would have seen a lot of Sid Mackay in that time as well, did you? He was decent. That Brora team was decent in general. They were. I think they had Xander as well. Xander Sutherland, that's right. Paul Brindle. Who else would have been in that team? Digger, McLean. I'm trying to think their midfield. Bill Gillespie was in the centre with Digger. Joe Malin was in goal. He was in goal for a long time. He must have been one of the longest serving players at one club. We've had a few opinions on here that people reckon Joe Malin or Kev Main are probably the two best goalkeepers the last 20 years in the Highland League. I think you got to throw Stuart Knight in there as well. But that's your for a 2-3 season spell. Joe Malin was untouchable. He was at Elgin for a wee while, and he never showed that at Elgin. But there's a weird thing, and I think I'm picking this up for playing Football Manager. But there's a weird thing. I think he's of Lithuanian descent, Joe Malin. Aye. There's a thing on Football Manager where he qualifies for Lithuania. So I don't know. I'd hate to look into that for some random reason. Aye, it's weird. On the we could keep on the keepers here, because the theme of keepers, if we're talking about Joe Malin, David Day. Yeah. What happened to him was an absolute travesty. You said arthritis. He was diagnosed with arthritis towards the end of last season. Had to retire. He was only 26, but you used to call him the pink goalie, did you? And it's good to see the turf keeper still plays in pink now. But he was immense. In terms of shot stopping, I can't remember seeing a better keeper than him, shot stopping wise, in the last good few years. And then all of a sudden he had to stop. That's mad. Every time I watched him, he was magnificent. I feel bad for guys like that, because they're probably not even at their peak yet at 26. Especially a goalkeeper. A goalkeeper's peak's 31, 32. And he's not picked on sympathy at all. I'm picking him on. Well, you'll read about him in the book. Ability, on ability, he was immense. Some of his saves, we watched them. Remember at Locos? That day at Locos. Gee whiz, it was just like, this boy, why is he playing in the Highland League? Aye. Absolutely excellent.
Did he save a pen?
He did. He saved the pen. But remember, he scored a rebound. That's right. He saved the pen, but he scored a rebound. But what a keeper he was. We saw him maybe 3 or 4 times last season, and then all of a sudden, just offshore, reading the P&J, David Day retires, diagnosed with arthritis. What? And I actually felt gutted there. I was like, what? What a disaster. Somebody I've had on this year, last year, because I'm speaking in the new year on the podcast, was Marcus Goodall. Did you get much of that Bucky team last season? I did. We actually turned up there, and it was called off last minute as well against Banks of D. But we saw them against Lossy, actually. That was the best we saw them play. They played against Lossy, beat them 3-0. Where else did we see Bucky? We saw them on the first day of the season, and they were lucky to come away with a 3-2 against Clach away. Remember? They scored a penalty last minute, did
Last
they?
minute.
That's right.
Yeah.
And but Clark were good that day, but they had Gary Warren at centre half,
Aye.
and that was his last game, and they've just fell off a cliff after that.
Yeah.
They were conceding goals for fun, but they were lucky that day, but they were good against Lossy at home. I think it was only twice we saw him last season. But Max Barry, he was another one that was decent in that team. But
Yeah,
he got his move.
He could. Yeah, I've always said he played at a higher level, and then we've just taken Jack Murray.
I was away to mention him.
Yeah.
I cannot remember.
He's our top scorer this season.
I can't remember ever seeing anyone beat him in the air. Jack Murray, what a leap he's got.
Me and Ryan were at the Elgin game on Tuesday night, and he's hitting things away with his head, and he's hitting them 40, 50 yards. He can head a ball.
He can properly head a ball like an old school centre half.
That's what I was speaking about earlier on, like boys that can't head properly. And I don't mean that they can't head it. They make a good connection, but being able to put that ball half the park with your head, that's what I mean, a proper header.
Yeah.
Like, thank you very much for the last hour and a bit,
That's all right.
Graeme. I've got just one more question for you both. I finish off on the same, but www.fitballbag.com
Aye.
is your website.
Aye, it's just write-ups of games plus the occasional.
Leather balls, whistles, studs and scarves. Forget the half and half scarves. Here comes the Highland League.
Here's the Highland League.
Here's the Highland League is your two books.
Yeah.
Can people get these readily available?
Well, see, the problem with, like, if I was to do it through Amazon, if you don't do the posting and stuff, they take your photos out of them.
It's all
Don't
right.
ask me why, right?
Wow.
And with my job, you know what would happen? I'd leave on the Sunday and I'd get an order on the Monday and they wouldn't get it for a month. Complaints, blah, blah, blah. So I just do it through myself. It actually works all right. It's just word of mouth. So
Twitter, people get a hold of you on Twitter and things like that.
At Giles Graham.
At Giles Graham.
And then I've got my website, my email address as well, which is fitballbagbooks.
Yep.
So
as you're saying this, I can get Ryan to put up a little graphic thing.
Fitballbagbooks@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And you just send my message on that and I can do it. And I post them the next day. I'm pretty good at that.
I went through your book in 3.5 days.
It's not rocket. It's not written in.
It's easy, such an easy read.
Yeah, it's written how I speak pretty much. So
and your chapters, nice short, sharp chapters, and then you move on to the next country, or you move on to the next set of games you went to. Or there is a timeline, but you go back and revisit things, and you'll speak about, like, obviously initially at the start of the book you speak about Aberdeen, and then you start going on your travels and things like that, but you'll revisit things from Aberdeen, from your past, further on in the book, just little paragraphs here and there and things like that. So I've still to read your second one. I'm looking forward to it.
That'll be pretty much the same.
The thing I really liked about it was you've given a little view of your game. You've given lineups and attendance, or like a little bit about the club history or the ground itself. Jake's got his little bit at the bottom. Yeah. So I've only read through one, and I think it was a Lossy game I read through, just to kind of get an insight into it. Do you plan a third book?
Probably more than 3, but nothing coming up. Like we were talking about one in the car on the way up, or like visiting clubs.
That funny names.
I with different names for like Auchinleck Talbot.
Okay.
So why have they got the Talbot? I know.
Have you been to there?
I've been twice. But
just a quick one on that. We had Lossy United here. How tight in is that ground? Because
it is pretty tight. Like, it's not the biggest of pitches
compared to the old Cove ground. Would it be?
I'd probably be on par with that, but it doesn't feel as enclosed.
Yes,
if you know what I mean. But the pitch is probably. Yeah. But it is. It's narrow. Like.
It's just when I watched back the video of the Scottish Junior Cup game, it was like, that just looks like everything's on top of it.
But the thing is, they get massive crowds, which obviously encloses it even more. Like, but that was an idea, like Auchinleck Talbot, Carnoustie Panmure. Why? Talbot, I know the reason. Panmure, I don't actually. So just like look into the history of teams with names and go and visit them. That's Burnt Island Shipyard.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Coldstream, Dalbeattie Star.
Aye, Dalbeattie Star. Where's the star come from?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that.
Things like that. Yeah, I love that. Final question for you both. Okay, I always finish on the same question. If there's a penalty and your life depends on it, who takes the penalty? So they have to score it for save your life. Who takes the penalty for you, Jake? Vinicius Junior takes a decent penalty, to be fair. You can pick anyone in world football, anyone in local football, anyone you've seen take penalties. You can pick Scotty Barber if you wanted. He's known for a penalty. And the same question to you, obviously.
I know my answer.
Just a quick one before you answer. Who do you prefer, Ronaldo or Messi?
Messi.
Okay, right answer. Ryan will have agreed with me. Do you want me to come back to you? I'll get your dad's answer first. Yeah. Okay.
Adam Rooney.
Wow, I did not expect that.
Adam Rooney only missed one for Aberdeen and he took a lot. And the only one he missed was in Europe against Maribor and he changed his run-up and he missed it.
Still playing now?
Somewhere he is. He's kicking about down the road. Solihull Muirs was last I heard.
Down in lower Leeds in England, yeah.
But the only time he missed was when he changed his run-up and it was in Europe. We ended up going out to Maribor as well.
So I take it he had the same technique.
And he just always put them out. The keepers just couldn't get them.
Wow. I'd never expect that answer because I remember him at Aberdeen, I remember him at Calais and things like that. And a decent player. I think he got a few games for Ireland, did he not?
He did, aye.
Yeah,
he did when he was at Aberdeen. He got capped, aye. So, he was decent at Aberdeen. Like he actually lived in Ellen, so he sort of went for a beer in Ellen every so often.
You have had some good half decent strikers over the years.
But then we've also had.
I always liked Sam Cosgrove. I thought he was a really good player.
But he had a good season. He had a very good season. Scott Vernon was all right.
Yeah.
But just we didn't have the team to.
You go back to players like you had was it Windass in the
Dean Windass
in the 90s.
Loved him. He'd be up there with my favourites. Like,
but like I always remember the Aberdeen team of Robbie Winters and Ian Jess, and that was an Eb Scodal team and things like that. That was
Robbie Winters did all right for us as well, actually. Like
Billy Dodds was there for a while.
Well, we got rid of Dodds for Winters. Dodds
did
and
Dodds go to Rangers after?
He went to Dundee United because we got Winters for Dundee United and they got Dodds and cash. It was a crazy deal in the end, and then Dodds ended up at Rangers. Okay. Billy Dodds, he scored a few. Duncan Shearer, awesome.
Aye.
We've had some good Miofsky in recent years. Miofsky was too good for Aberdeen. He was brilliant.
Yeah, he was really
absolutely
good.
Brilliant.
I wanted him at Celtic.
He was the best striker in the league.
Would you have been annoyed if he went to Celtic?
Yes, because I think he could have done better.
Yeah.
Where
was it he went again?
Girona,
that's the one. They've just played Liverpool as well.
Aye. They haven't been great this season, actually, and he took ages to score. Before when he did score, eventually he ended up with a double, but it took him a long time to score.
Brilliant.
So
penalty, you got me an answer.
Vinicius Junior.
Yeah, I think he's had a few for. I don't think this last 2 seasons, because Bellingham I think is on the pens now, but I'm pretty sure he used to be on them. He was the bridge gap between Ronaldo and Bellingham. That Real Madrid team just now is just, it's a bit like there's only so many stars you can fill it in and it just falls to bits, isn't it?
I'll direct a question at you, and I keep speaking to Jake about this as well. Does Mbappe have the potential to be the most overrated player ever? I'm not saying he's not a good player, but he is very overrated.
I agree with the overratedness. The thing I think about Mbappe is he's good in the modern game. If you put Mbappe in 10 years ago, it doesn't work. He's quicker than everyone. That's his one trait. And if you put somebody who's got one really good trait around and surround them with teammates who can just supply him footballs or cater to his needs, it makes him look even better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But my honest opinion on Mbappe is I think he's going to be another Wayne Rooney. I think he's going to hit his peak. I think he's already hit his peak. A hat-trick in the World Cup final. Rooney by 24, 25, he'd burnt out. He'd played that much football, and I think Mbappe's going to do the same. I think he's probably... People are going to expect, because he's only, I think, 23, 24 or something like that. They're going to expect him just to get better and better and better, and I think he's already had it.
Yeah.
And you don't see it that much, and people, a lot of commentators and that are naive to think that players are just going to keep getting better until they hit maybe 31, 32, and then they start to go down.
Dropping off.
A lot of guys hit their peak at 18, 19. Balotelli was another one.
Yeah.
Hit his peak at 20.
We saw him kicking about. Who was that for again? We watched AC Milan against. It's Nay. Who were AC Milan playing? Balotelli was on the bench against them. Last weekend. Was it Genoa? Anyway, he's back in Serie A anyway.
Yeah, a bit of a madman.
Genoa.
Because he was doing really well in France for a wee while, and then that all changed. But check Graeme out on Twitter.
It was Genoa, by the way. I've just checked.
Was it?
Yeah.
Check Graeme out on Twitter. Give us a website a wee shout if you want to get hold of his book. Give him a wee email. We'll be able to sort you out. Also, like, if people are listening to this and they're at clubs that think Graeme would be interested or Jake would be interested in going visiting, things like that, potentially not being knocked off the list, get in touch with him about that as well, because I'm sure you're open to pretty much going anywhere.
Go anywhere.
Yeah, it's. I'm just going to finish off with this isn't, and you said it before. Through reading that book and meeting you two, you are not groundhoppers. You're just football fans.
Yeah.
Pure football fans, like bigger football fans than I'll ever be, because I go and watch my own hometown team. I go and watch Celtic a couple of times a season, and I do majority of I run welfare teams and things like that, and I run a women's team. I'll help run a women's team, but apart from that, my majority of my products on the telly. So hats off to you. Quick one before we go. Did you get to much women's games?
Never been out
No.
games.
No.
If you ever want to catch an Elgin City women's game,
Usually Sundays, is it?
usually a
He's got his
Sunday.
football.
Aye, okay.
Yeah, he's got his own fit on a Sunday, so Sundays are always tied up with that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Do
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Good luck with your own football ventures.
Aye, we're getting there. We're getting
Bishop
there.
Mill.
Yeah,
We'll have to see if what you told me before comes to fruition.
absolutely. There's a scarf coming your way, my man.
Oh, excellent. Quality. We'll come up and watch it, the Gleaner.
The Football Journals is now on Patreon. If you sign up on Patreon for just £5 a month, you can get access to our upcoming guests and the chance to ask your own questions, the ability to watch our podcast with full video exclusive, audio only on all other platforms. You can get your episodes earlier than anyone else, sometimes a few days, sometimes a week. But you will get your episodes earlier than everyone else. Chance to request guests of your choice. We will do our utmost to get them on the show, if obviously within reason. I can't go asking Cristiano Ronaldo on the show. And one bonus episode per month. There's already a bonus episode on there. You'll get a further bonus episode every month. Sign up today at patreon.com/footballjournals, capital F, capital J. That's sign up today at patreon.com/footballjournals, capital F, capital J.